Good afternoon, virtual villagers, and welcome to my session, What Kate Made. Today we're going to be looking at flower crowns, and as you can see, I'm wearing mine. Um, here's one I made earlier. It's a little bit. I don't wear things on my head, so it feels slightly uncomfortable. But I am just showing it so you can see it. I'm going to just take it off now because it is making my head a little bit itch, and I'm going to give you a closer look at it. I'm just going to try and get up your comments. I think we're away. So, I feel my hair's a mess now. I said, let you have a closer look at this. This is a flower crown. It is um, half, more than a half circle of artificial flowers and leaves. It's tied at the back with ribbon. Although the ribbon is kind of decorative, I would clip it on with hair clips if you're going to be wearing it. I've said it's a festival vibe. This particular one is a little more weddingy, little girl. We have a rose queen. It's a tradition in Lancashire. It's a church tradition where they nominate a young person to be rose queen for the year, and she does all sorts of things for the church. But this kind of thing you would probably see a rose queen wearing. So let's have a quick look at what it is. I've got two large. Some of these are artificial flowers I've scavenged or bought. When I say scavenged, I mean picked up here and there. Some of them are ones I've made. So that's that one in the middle, the big fabric pink flower. I made that one. I'll be showing you how to make that. And this one here, that's a tiny little rosebud made with organza ribbon, and I'll be showing you how to make something similar to that. There's lots of little ribbon bunches, just like bunches of pleated ribbon that are nice for filling in. There's another one there. Most of the foliage on it is artificial. Now this, as I said, is a very rose queen one, I would say, bridesmaid maybe. What I'm going to do with the one I'm going to show you, because the other flowers I've got were quite bright, I'm going to do something very neon, very festival. So I'm going to pop this to one side, and I'm going to show you what I've got for the other one. You might be able to see or not if I move to one side this way. We've got a little guest. Can you see over there? He looks like a little stuffed dog. That is Jack, my dog. He just joined us, and I've just noticed he's on camera. So let's hope he keeps quiet and the doorbell doesn't go. Right, so back to showing you what I'm going to make, or what I'm going to use. Now, as I said before, flowers I kind of scavenge from a lot of different places. In the one I just showed you, the beautiful roses in it were actually used by my daughter-in-law to decorate backs of chairs for their wedding, which is just about a year ago. And there was loads of bits left, and we took some home, so I've kept them. These ones that I'm going to use today, which are a beautiful silk orchid, these are actually, I used these to decorate my sister's wedding cake, and they've been married, I think, 4 years now. So these were lying around. Other bits and pieces, I've got some foliage. Now, I only had one piece of this, and it was like both ends were in one piece, but I've cut them and then rewired them together, because really with the crown you want it to be even on both sides. Well, I do anyway. You don't have to. I'm not very spontaneous. Now, so that's my foliage. And what else have I got here? I've got, as I showed you before, I've got some bits of ribbon that I've just made into little bunches. So I'll show you how to do that as well. I've made half of the crown already because it makes it a bit quicker to put it together. There's a little on this. Oops, I always go the wrong way. Turn that way. This is a beautiful ribbon rose. It's just made from a piece of ribbon, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'll show you how to make those. And then the star of the show is this. Now, talking about scavenging, this lovely pink organza was used last year, maybe even the year before, at my sister-in-law's 60th, and they swagged it over everything. And where's the, can't see the big piece now, but it comes, they were great big pieces. Oh, here it is, I'll show you. So there were pieces like this, and I have literally got miles of it. So what I've done with this one is fold it so that these stitched edges are on the inside and then you don't see them. So basically I folded it like, I'll show you now, half and half like that. But as I've got towards the edge, when I want it to be wider, I've actually sort of made one side wider and one side less, so more like that. So it's actually my ribbon, if you like, is wider. Right, so let me show you what else I've got here. I've got some felts, I've got ribbons, I've got buttons, which seem to have disappeared, because I want this to be a real vibrant sort of neon. So I've got a button trim for my felt flower. It's felt and ribbons and my organza. Lots of other little ribbons. These are quite good. I think I acquired these from a friend who wanted to do ribbon embroidery and then gave up. So these are quite nice, bright colours as well. The tools you'll need and the other essentials are, you will need scissors, you will need pliers. I've also got my bigger, sharper scissors for cutting fabric. You'll need some floristry wire. Now, I've nearly run out of the silver wire, so I've ended up with this very old bobbin of slightly rusty wire. It doesn't matter because it won't show. The other kinds of wire you will need are, well, I'm using this one. You need a heavy gauge wire. You can use a headband, but I find that I've got a big head and they're really tight on me. This is a heavy gauge wire and it's coated in paper. I don't know whether I can bring it close and show you. It's used for sugar crafts. People do it making flowers to go on wedding cakes and things. So that's going to be the basis of my crown. I've also got in here some other wire, like the silver wire I showed you on a roll, but this is shorter wire. So this is what you might get if you ask for florist wire. I've started to run out of it. That's all I've got left, which is why I resorted to the reel of wire, which I've had for ages. And I think that's everything you'll need. Oh, glue. I've got my glue gun on the back there. Not much glue today. Oh, needles and threads. So I have threaded up a light colour, a pink, and a dark colour ready. Because, you know, I don't like to start threading needles when you're watching me. Right, I'm going to turn the camera down. I know last time I was on, we struggled a bit with seeing what I was doing, but I've got a new tripod. And hopefully it's going to be a bit better. Now my other device that's got my comments on is moving about a bit. So let's see if we can see. So you should be able to see my whole work area. Just going to push that back a little bit. So you can see my hands. Should be able to see me now. So we're going to start with these, the bigger flowers. Now on mine from earlier, I did 3 big flowers. But the 2 roses were quite prominent on it. So I found that the flower I'd made in the middle disappeared a bit. But I'm not going to worry about that now. So what I'm going to show you first is how we wire these. Now, I'll just pull off the length of wire. They don't need to be strong wire. Lost the end of this now. Because they're going to be bound around that, the one I showed you. There's the end. So, but we do need to have some wire on them because the little stems are quite short and you need to be able to manipulate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little pliers to cut off a bit of wire. So that is about 8 inches. It doesn't have to be that long. It's just so you've got enough to wind around both ends. And then I'm just simply going to find the plastic stalk at the back of my flower and I'm going to just twist that around. If you want to put a dab of glue on it as well to be ultra safe, then do. But this wire is quite thin, so it's easy to manipulate it tightly. So that is your first flower wired. So that's ready to go on the crown. So I'm going to do both of these orchids. I don't know whether I'll use them both yet. I haven't quite decided. I tend to make these things up as I go along. So I'll wire the other one. So that's my 2 orchids wired. I've also got, as I said before, I've got this one that I made, which is a pink organza rose, and in the middle of it is a little rosette that I've made from ribbon. Now, if you can see, I don't think you can, but right in the very centre, if I push the well, I'll push it from the other side and then you'll see it. I've got a little crystal. Now, that is a pin. These are Florist pins that I bought because I needed something a bit shiny. And they are, you quite often see these in bouquets. There'll be a little diamond or little crystal. It's not crystal, it's plastic, but it's on a pin head. Now, they're great, but that pin head does make it a little bit difficult when you're wiring up. So I may or may not use it. I might take it out. But I just think it makes it nice and decorative. Right, I'm going to get started because I'm going to show you how to do this one first, because that's the sewn one. So as I said before, I've got this. Now, you can just as easily do it with a wide organza ribbon. In fact, it's easier to do with a wide organza ribbon. I'm going to cut off about 18 inches of this. I'm just going to cut it straight across. There's already a cut in it there, so that's handy. I'm just going to say a few highs. I've got Donna. I think Donna was here last time. Irene. Irene's regular. Isabella, you new here. Who else? That's it at the moment. There's more than that watching, but I think you're being quiet and shy. Please say hello if you're there. Right, so with my strip of organza, because I've got this sewn edge on it, I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to fold the sewn edge to the middle on both sides. And then I'm just going to pop a pin in it just to hold it. No, fold it again. That's what I do. Fold it again, sort of, basically. And then I'm going to pin it so it doesn't unravel. If you were using just organza ribbon, it would be about that. It needs to be about that wide. Because I'm using this strip of organza, then I'll show you. Actually, I have got a piece of organza ribbon here. I've decided not to use it because it's got a wire edge and it just makes it a little bit more difficult to make the flower I want. But that's about the width you're looking at. That's 2 inches. Okay. So you need the needle and thread. As I said before, I've got it already threaded up because I'm painful at threading needles. Again, as usual, I've doubled my thread and put a knot in the end of it, and that gives me a good anchor point, and I'm just going to anchor it right at this end. I need to remember to keep my hands towards myself. I've anchored it by going through the loop, and then I'll just do a couple more stitches. Because we're going to do a gathering stitch, we want it to be pretty secure because we don't want it to unravel as we go. We can now remove the pin. And I'm going to run my gathering stitch about, I don't know, maybe 4 inches with little tiny stitches, because at the beginning we want it to be quite gathered quite close together. And as you can see, I'm leaving, can you see? I'm leaving the stitching so that I'm gathering above that little bit of stitching on my edge so that I can see it's not going to show on my finished flower. So as you can see, I've done about 4 inches and then gather it tight and then put a couple of stitches through it, just because it will unravel itself. And just putting a couple of stitches just through all the little pleats, not your finger like I just did, just stops it unraveling. And then you do the next bit. Now, I said before that I gradually moved my seam up a little bit. And I did this because I wanted to get more of an edge. So I'll try and explain it as I go. You won't need to do this if you've just got ribbon, but I'm going to do about another 4 inches of gathers, slightly bigger stitches because we don't want the pleats to be quite as tight as in the beginning. And then I'm going to pull it, and then again I'm going to stitch through the gathers. Okay, so you can see it's starting to crisp up, curl up now, whatever. So I'm going to just alter the ratio of this so that my top bit is slightly wider. That just gives you because I've got a double layer, it helps it go round, it helps you roll your rows up later when it's one side's wider. The problem, which you will see when I do it with a ribbon, is that you tend to, because it's the same width, it's got to go further round and it tightens up a little bit. I know that doesn't make sense, but it will make sense when I show you with a ribbon. So again, I'm going to just put a couple of stitches to hold my gathers in. Now, it may not look like much at the moment other than a bit of frilly ribbon, but once we start to curl it, you'll see what I mean. And again, I'm going to gather a bit more. My gather stitches are getting a lot further apart now because we don't want as tight pleats. So, and I'm not going to gather it quite as tight, but I am going to still keep anchoring them as I go. So you can see it's getting less, the pleats are getting less tight as I go on. So they were quite tight at the beginning there, and they're getting a little bit looser as we get towards the edge. And I'm going to do the last bit all the way along now and just pull it gently into gathers. Just need to be careful not to get your thread in a bit of a tangle. Now the other thing I've been doing for myself, and I may show you some if we have time later, is that I do a lot of crochet, and I've been crocheting some lifelike looking flowers for my porch display, which is supposed to be for the summer, but summer's getting away from me and I haven't really done very much of it. So as you can see, my gathers are getting a bit looser here, and I've come to the end, and I'm just going to fold that end piece over so it's like a triangle, and then put a few stitches in it, just because that'll make it lie better at the end. So that's what we end up with. It's tightly gathered at the beginning and less gathered at the end, like a little tutu. And then you simply roll it up like this. So simply, can you see? I'll try and get my hands out of the way. I'm just going round and round with my keeping all the edges together like that, flat at the top, but inside, so it's a bit like a rosette. Now when I get this far, I just want to anchor it with a few stitches so it doesn't unravel itself. So I'm going through several layers there, so that's holding it together. I'm going to put my thumb in the center like that and push it through so that at the back all my gathers are there, and then I'm just going to stitch through all these gathers. I'm going to go through several layers so that they're all caught up together and they don't, it means just your rows will stay rolled. So you want to go right through the outside. Can you see? That's the outside layer, so I'm going through there, and then I'm going through the inside layers as well. So I'm pulling it all together. Makes your rows a little bit tighter. Every now and then though, just turn it over and make sure it still looks all right from the other side, because you can get carried away with pulling stitches through and then forget that this is the back. So once I'm pleased with the back all being tidied together, I'm just going to do a loop stitch and then run my just into a knot, and then I'm knotting it. So just take off my needle. So that's the back of it. So this is the centre where we've just stitched it together, and that is the front. So you've got like a rosette. Now on mine, as I showed you earlier, there's a darker pink ribbon rose in the middle. So I'm going to show you how to make that now. It's the same principle, but you're just using ribbon. There's a couple of little things I can show you with the ribbon. I don't think I've got that pink, so I'm going to use this pink and make it just a little bit brighter and neon. So again, I'm taking about 18 inches. So that's 18 inches. You might not need that much, but it's always worth having a little bit extra because you can't stick any on. So I'm taking my other needle that I've got threaded up with pink. And again, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Now this ribbon has a shiny side and a not shiny side. Now we want the shiny side to be on the outside. So we're going to do our gathers on the non-shiny side. And again, we just do some little anchoring stitches. So I have doubled my, just got caught around my pins. I've doubled mine. So I knotted it at the end. So I end up with a little loop like that. Can you see? Oops. Don't think you can see that. Which I put my needle through and that just holds it steady. And I'm going to do just another little couple of stitches. And that will hold it steady while I gather it. Now this is an acrylic ribbon and it's quite I don't know what the word is, fragile almost, and it will unravel from the end. So there's a little trick for adults only. I know that sounds a bit rude. I can't find it now, but a cigarette lighter. You're not going to set fire to the ribbon, you're just going to bring the ribbon close to the flame, and what it does is it seals that end. It melts all them loose threads and it seals it so it won't unravel. So again, we're going back to our gathers. Let's straighten our thread out, and we're going to gather along the bottom edge of this ribbon on the non-shiny side. If your ribbon is shiny on both sides, you don't have to worry about that. And we're going to do the same principle. We're going to gather about 4 inches. It's just a running stitch. You might need to just keep pulling your thread so it's straight. That's the only problem with doubling your thread up, is that it tends to separate out a little bit, but it is stronger. Right, and then I'm going to gather it. And you can see how it does curl up in exactly the same way. And then I'm going to just anchor it with a couple of little stitches before I move on to my next set of gathers. So far, both the flowers we've made are made on the same principle, like a rosette. They look like roses. They're quite attractive. Very pretty if you can put a bead in the centre, like a pearl bead or something shiny. But as I use those diamond tipped, well, they're not diamond, not even crystal, they're plastic, pins, that are florist pins. So again, we're getting that tutu effect. And I'm just going to do another 4-inch section, and then I'm going to see how it rolls up, and it might be enough. Because the last few rolls round, like with the organza I showed you before, we don't really want to gather it much at all. Right, so let's have a look at this. So we're wanting, it's curled quite a lot, so we're wanting shiny side up, and we're going to roll it shiny side out. So that's my shiny side, and I'm going to roll it that way and gather. I've got the wrong glasses on and I can't see very well. Gather round. So again, I'm keeping my finger in the center of it, which just provides me with an actual center. So let's try it that way. Trying to remember to keep the shiny side on the outside. I think I might have pulled that a little bit tight when I've done my gathers. Well, I know what's happened. It's got, sometimes the ribbon gets caught under the thread and it pulls it into a, that's better. Let's start that again. So I'm rolling from the center. I'm going to try and come closer to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Moving that out to there. Now I'm going to, excuse me, I've got an itchy eye. This is my thread, and what I'm going to do is going to actually start stitching across the centre now, just because it's going to unravel very quickly. So that's my first stitch, and then I'm going to do as I did before and put my thumb in the centre, so that holds my centre in the middle while I stitch, gathering all those little gathers together at the back. Now, as this is going in the centre of the other one, we don't need to worry too much about how big it is or the, you know, the shape of it. I'm just going to do this back to front so you can see what I'm doing. And then I can stitch across the back and hold it together. So there, you can see now I've got quite a nice little rosette shape going on there. Whoops, I keep going the wrong way. So what I'm going to do now is cut the rest of the ribbon off, and I'm going to cut it on an angle. So I'm going to go from the centre to the outside like that. And then again, I'm going to use the adults only trick and just seal that edge to stop it unraveling. And then if you just sort of pull it, and I've still got my thread attached, so I've got a little little rose for the centre. What do you think? So I'm going back to I've decided not to use the pin because it does make it a bit awkward when you're fastening it to your wreath. So what I'm going to do is, still got my needle threaded with my rosette on the end, and I'm just going to pop that through the middle of my bigger rosette, and then come do up and down stitches, so from the back to the front, right through all the layers, and then back down again a couple of times to just hold the centre. Now I've decided I'm going to make this the centre of my crown, and that's pretty, isn't it? And use the two orchids either side of it, and not use the one that I made earlier because the diamonds are pain. It's going to be a diamond pin is going to be a pain. Just finish, knot your thread off and cut it. And there we go. Now these little ones, you can make these just on their own. On the thing, this is the half I've already made. I made one for that side. So I already have one made, I think, that I can use for the second side when we come to show you how to wire that together. So what we've got now is we've got our main flowers. So essentially they're going to be like that on my headband, and then what we've got going to come around to the rest of the headband are side pieces like this. Now this consists of a artificial flower that is like a lavender, and it's got its own foliage on it, so that's quite nice. It's got a ribbon rose, it's got other little ribbons, and it's also got these nice little purple flowers that are like hydrangeas. So I'm going to get on with making another very quick ribbon rose. I'm going to make it purple. So they're going to be going to a festival this year. I think I'm too old for festivals, much to my regret. I never went to them when I was a teenager. There wasn't a lot around. It was more raves when I was a teenager. And now I think I'm too old. I don't like the thought of all that. Maybe a day festival. Do outdoor concerts. I live near Blackpool, and we've just been having, well, I think it's still on actually, Lytham Festival, which used to be a really good, accessible, cheap festival. And then it suddenly took off, and they started to get lots of big names. And now it costs you £80 or £90 for an evening ticket when you see 3 artists and there's no seating and it's outdoors, and it's just not me. So I am gathering again. I'm doing this one a bit more quickly just because I'm aware of time and that we need to move on to show you how to put them all together. So I'm just going to make this just a very quick bunch. I'm not going to worry about the shape and rolling it. I'm just going to put some stitches through all these gathers to hold them together. And I'm going to cut that off at an angle to one side. Seal up that end. Where's it gone? There it is. And that's quite an effective little, in fact, that is better than the other one, I think. It's funny that, isn't it? Sometimes when you rush, you get something more effective. Right. So we're now at the stage of putting it together. Sorry, I knocked one of my orchids off just then. So I talked to you before about this paper coated wire. This is, it must be 13 inches, it must be in centimetres. I'm going to start with it straight on like that. So I'm going to just let that is the base of our flower crown. Now the first one we're going to wire on is the large rosette we just made. So I just need to put some wire in it, and I'm just trying to think which is going to be the best way. Because actually I'm going to use a slightly thicker wire. This is a silver Florist wire. It's thicker gauge. I'm going to cut a piece about 6 inches. And then I'm going to fold that in half to make like a pin. Could probably use my pliers to just squeeze it a bit more. So it looks like an old-fashioned hairpin. And then I'm going to poke that through the middle, if I can. Might not be able to. Might have to go back to the, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go back to the pin. If you haven't got these, actually, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to show you the other ones. I have some of these. These are dressmaking pins, and they're pearl-headed. I'm going to use that just to give me something to wire. And then I'm going to flip that. I'm going to bend it with my pliers so it's at a right angle. You see that? So that I can wire that on. I'm just going to switch my glue gun on because I will need that later. So then I'm going to get, actually, I'm going to show you something else I've got here as well. This is another paper covered wire, but it's green. I think I got this to use when I did my sister's wedding flowers. So I'm going to use this just because it will start to, it'll show better against the white, so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with my central flower, and I'm just going to wrap that green coated wire around the stem of that pearl headed pin that's on there. This one is going right in the center, so we find the center, make sure that the pin is at the center, and then I'm just going to start wrapping that green wire around this tail end here. I'm going to wrap the other way. Okay, so now we've got our first flower on it. I'm doing this straight and then I'm going to bend it. Might not be a good idea, but we'll see. Right, so then we want to place our orchids, and we want to place them at a slight angle, but we want them to be, I'm going to make them, I don't know whether you can see it better this way, you see orchids are sort of the shape of the orchid, so either that way or that way. Which do you think? I think we might go with that way. And I'm overlaying it slightly. It's got its own wire, so I'm going to then use that very fine silver wire to wrap the stem of the orchid, and then I can also flip it up a little bit. It's moved around a little bit, but we don't need to be too fussy. The good thing about wiring them on as well is if you decide you want that further up, you just slide it up a little bit. And then the other orchid is going to go on the other end, and again I want it overlapping slightly, and I'm just going to wrap that silver wire around and round and round my stem. I'm going to trim these wires as I go, otherwise you end up with about 16 wires by the time you get to the end. Slight exaggeration. So that's our first 2 flowers, and that is our main flower. They are quite well in the center. You can't see because you can't see the whole wire. Yes, you can then. Right, so they're quite in the center. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put some greenery on. Now, as I said before, this greenery I'm going to use, it's like a eucalyptus leaf. It was one piece. This little bit on the end here was up there, but I cut it off and I wired the 2 ends together. So I've got like a laurel wreath kind of thing, like you see all it on Greek heroes. I'm going to put this behind because I want the greenery. Can you see? I want the greenery to show out at the ends. I'm trying to even it up. It won't be even on the back because one piece is slightly longer than the other, but it's where it shows I want to. So I wanted to show a little bit of that end and a little bit of that end. So I'm just going to push it. Camera's back to front to me, you see, so it makes it a little bit difficult. If I want it showing up, that's it. I have to turn it towards me, sorry, while I even that up. Right, that's it. Now, the wire I've already got on, the green, I'm going to use to wire that end, and you just wind it round between the leaves, bring the stem as close as you can to your base wire. I'm going to need a little bit more wire. I'm going to use one of these finer silver wires on this end to, again, catch that. So I'm just winding that round and round, pulling that greenery onto my base wire. So I've now got greenery on both sides, that side and that side. Okay, so I'm going to lay the main one to one side now, because what I'm going to do is make up these little sprays that are going to go, that they're going to fit onto the main wreath. See, there's the bare wire, and they're going to fit back to front, if you like, so that they're overlapping the end of the wire so you can't see it. And the reason I've done them up like this is because they're all little short stems, so it makes it easier to just do it in a wanna. Now, I'm using a lot of these little ribbon bundles, so I'm just going to quickly show you how I made these. I'm going to make one of each colour because I do need one of each colour. And basically, you just make a loop and make another loop. With the green ones, I wanted to represent foliage, I only did 2 loops. With the colours, I made 3, so that's loop number 3. So hold them tight. Get your thinner florist wire. I'm going to just switch hands so you can see better. So that's my bunch of loops, and then I just take my wire. That one's come astray. And just quickly do a couple of tight loops round, and then cut it. Cut the wire with the pliers and the ribbon with the scissors. Now you can seal the ends if you want, but it's not really necessary. So that's one yellow one. The green one, I'm only going to do 2 loops. Just don't ask me why, I just think 2 loops looks better for leaves. A lot of this goes back to these skills go back to my mum was a florist, and I used to do a lot of things, buttonholes and things for my Saturday job. So these are a lot of the things we used to do to sort of supplement, add pops of colour to plain flowers like carnations and things. So again, cut the wire with a little tail and cut the ribbon short. See, I'm using different scissors. And what was the other? I said another one, didn't I? Should we go for this bright neon pink? Also, any other bits of ribbon, like there's a bit of this wider ribbon left. We could do the same with that, just to make some pops of colour. So I'm going to do 3 loops with this pink. And get my wire. And just, let's see. It was a stray bit of wire I must have cut off something else earlier, so don't waste that one, no. So there we've got. So what I'm going to I'll just show you what we've got here. So we have got this piece of fake greenery. It's got a lavender light flower on it, and it's got these quite nice leaves. So that's going to be the backbone, if you like, of my little spray. I've got this little rosette flower I made earlier. I'm going to try and poke some wire through it. I might end up having to glue it because this wire is quite fragile. Might not go through. Oh yeah, it has. So I'm going to poke it through and make a loop. If it'll go through the second time. It won't, it's just bending. Oh no, there we go. So I don't know whether you can see that, but it's proving very fiddly. I've got a bit of wire there and I've got a bit of wire there. So they're coming through, can you see? Through from the centre. So if I pull the flower up, it should not show, and it doesn't. Oops, that way. So then I've got wires at the back to twist, so that will help me attach it to the base. So that's my flower. I've also got these are like another fake flower. I think they're meant to be a hydrangea, but the colours are very match everything else. The reason all these colours match is these are the wedding flower flowers, so they all matched. So I've got that, and I've got that, and then I've got several of these little green ribbon loops I just showed you. So they're going to act like foliage. And I've got 2 purple ones, 2 yellow ones, and 2 orange ones, orange pink ones. Okay, so let me just move everything out so you can see what I'm doing. We're starting with our piece of greenery. I'm going to just have my mine there so I can see what I'm doing. So the next thing I put on was my little flower, and I think I'm going to attach that there so that you can see you can see it among the leaves. This has got a natural curve, and I want to follow that natural curve to so it curves when I put it on the headband. Can you see? So there's my purple flower. I'm going to put it that way around so you can see. And then I'm going to put some of these ribbons in, and I'm just going to pop them in where there's gaps and use the wire to wrap around the stem of the greenery to hold them in place. And with the wire you can move them around as well. It's quite good. You can position them where you want them. Now I don't want to put the purple ribbon under the purple. I'm going to put the yellow. And I'm going to put it a bit further down like that. Wrap the wires around. And I'm going to pop some of the green ones in. I put one here nearer the top, so you need to find where your stem is and go around it with your wire. I'm aware I'm making this look terribly clumsy. So you can see it's starting to look a little bit like a corsage. That was the word I was looking for. I'm going to place my hydrangea flowers on now because they're quite big. So once they're on, I can start to put stuff around and fill gaps in. Now, if I show you that one, and that was my original one, I'm trying to copy it, so it has actually got a yellow and a purple, and I'll put a green. I'll put the three of them together and just pop them underneath the hydrangeas, and then I can maneuver them around so that I've not got two together. So my yellow, I want to go behind the hydrangeas there, pull the green down, and the purple I want to bring across there. Now, to me, it needs a pop of colour there. So I'm going to take my last pink one. I'm going to wire it on from the back. Where did I say it needed colour there? Just because it's now getting quite tangled at the back here. So I'm going to put the wire around. It might be easier if I did it that way and move the ribbon rather than the... There. So I wanted the colour there. So that's... And I think it might just need a pop of colour here as well. So I'm going to put... Oh, I've got green. Maybe I should have done another yellow. I'll put the green on. And then the purple is what I've got left. So that'll have to go there. You can get terribly finicky about all of this, as my family will attest, but you don't need to be. So that's our two little corsage shaped ones. So now we're ready to put the whole thing together. I'm aware time's running short, so I'm just going to... So we're back again to our original headband wire. You simply take these, I might use, and where the stem end is, I'm going to place that against my where my greenery is, and hide the stem end in a little bit underneath the edge of the orchid, and I'm just going to wind it round with the bit of green wire I still had left over and hold it on. And then, so if you can see that from the back, this is my end of my spur and there's my end of my wire. Now I'm not going to wire it there yet because I'm going to show you what you do with your ribbons. Now I'm going to use these ribbons as my decoration, and I'm going to use this slightly stronger ribbon, slightly wider ribbon as my ties. Now I'm looking to do, I don't know, 3 feet of ribbon on each side for the ties. So plenty is better than not as much. So those are going to be the bits that tie it. I'm going to leave that there because I'm just waiting for my glue to come back on. It isn't going to come on. Right, that's fine. We'll go with plan C and use some sellotape. It's not very technical, but bear with me a second. So if I show you, go back to my original wreath, what I did was these are the ribbons that are tying it. These are just decoration. So what I did was I hot glued that, and then I wrapped the ribbon round and round, and then I put a few stitches in it. So just put aside our thinner ribbon, take our ties. We're going to take one end and we're going to pretend we've put hot glue on it, but we haven't got any hot glue, so I'm going to stick a bit of sellotape to hold it while I stitch it. So I'm going to put the sellotape on the end of the ribbon, take the end of the wire and just wrap that sellotape around it, taking the ribbon with it. And then I will put a couple of stitches in it as well, just to be doubly sure. So that's one end. And here again is our wire at the other end. And we're going to, this is our second tie. Just going to put the sellotape on like that. And then I'm going to wrap it around. And it will take, the cellophane will take the ribbon with it. Sellotape, I should say. Now that, if you'd glued that, that would be a lot more secure. Now my last threaded needle has got dark thread on it, but for now it'll do. Then I'm going to take the ribbon and wrap it around that end, tightly round. I'm starting to spin a bit. It's because I'm no glue. Oh, my self-charging glue gun has run out of charge while I've been talking. Wrap that tightly around the end. Pretend it's glued, and then I'm going to put some stitches in it. I don't, can you see? A lot of this, you make it up as you go along. I forgot to knot the end of that, so that's just unravelled. And I'm going to stitch 2 or 3 times through all the layers of ribbon that are on there, and that will hold it securely. As I say, you will fasten this on with hair grips as well. I wouldn't rely on the ribbons to hold it on my head, particularly if it was wet or windy. That's another point, actually. I've seen these done with real flowers, which are great, but they don't last very long. Don't use anything that's going to dissolve in the weather. So don't use paper. Don't use, I don't know, something that's, you know, not waterproof. And very quickly again, I'm going to wrap this around at the end, this ribbon, and put a few stitches in it to hold it on securely. I would have glued that on in the real world, but I would still put stitches in it as well. I like belt and braces. I'm sorry, I'm aware I'm not talking directly to people very much, but I am also aware that I've only got 5 minutes left. I want to show you the rest. Right, so while I've been stitching that on, I'm going to very quickly now take my other end and one of my pieces of Florist wire and wire it all the way to the end where the ribbons are. So I'm placing that underneath my orchid like I did before. I'm just going to start that off by wiring, putting the wire around, poke it through. It just makes it easier to manoeuvre. Add it on and then wire through my corsage bit. Wrap it round. It's not going to be very secure with this. When you're doing it yourself, just take your time, but I think I'm running out of time now, so I want to show you it finished. So that's now wired over the end of my wire, and at this end it's the same. I'm going to wire it on. Let's make sure all my flowers are out of the way. Take my wire and just wrap it through the flowers and the leaves and onto that base wire underneath, that piece of paper coated wire. So, like so. Now, all you need to do now is bend it into the headband shape, and you want to bend it equally. So this is the back. I'm trying to get my flowers a little bit more even. This is my back, and I'm going to find the 2 ends of the wire and bend it into a loop, like so. And then you just need to bend it. It's quite strong, this sugar craft wire, so you need to bend it so it's into a half moon shape. Then turn it over and just rearrange your flowers and your foliage so that they still look halfway decent. Now, there we go. I'm going to turn it back round this way, and I'm going to have to point the camera up because it's going to have to go on my head now while I tie the ribbons. So just bear with me. That is the basic flower wreath done. It's nice and bright. That big pink flower is the center. So I'm now going to just pop this on my head. Make sure my pink flower is at the center. And then it's going to be a bit, I'm going to hold it there This is a little bit difficult when you're doing it on yourself because I want these ribbons to tie at the back of the middle of my head. So I'm just going to take that back to the middle of my head and then tie it evenly so that it's sort of in the middle. And I'm going to tie it just with a knot for now. Could tie it with a bow, but I'm aware of time slipping away. Don't know what time my session is, but I'm assuming I've only got an hour. Now, when I pop that back on my head, I'm just going to have a little twiddle with these flowers because the way I've wired them on, they've kind of almost disappeared a little bit. With them up there, and that fits on, and I'm going to show you the sides. I can't see the sides because I've turned the head away. Now, you can also, I've got all that ribbon at the back. With some of your other ribbons, these narrow ones we use to make the little ribbon loops, I'm going to just gather some lengths of these. And I think I have a bit of purple as well. That's not long enough. None of the pieces I've got there are long enough. And as if you were making ribbons for a parcel, you want them about 6 inches and then put through there. And then I'm just going to tie them. Where I've tied this, I'm going to split open the 2 ribbons and just tie them in a simple knot, a double knot probably, almost like curling ribbon on a parcel. Slide the knot up a little bit and then pull it tight. So what we've got there now is, I'm going to cut this one a bit shorter because I don't need all of that. We've got our flower crown with all our dangly ribbons on the back. So when you put it over your head, get my rose to the middle again. I've got a big head, you see, so if I show you the back now, you can see, I hope, the ribbons at the back. Did you see them? Because I can't see it. I'm on 10-second delay. Yeah, you could see the back. Right, so that's your flower crown. So festival ready. I think I'm just cutting into the last few seconds of my time. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I think I'm on again in 2 weeks. I'm carrying on the festival vibe, but I'm going to show you how to make water bottle carriers, sun cream holders, sort of a little bit like a festival survival kit. So have a look and see what you need for that when it pops up. And thank you. Hope you've all enjoyed it, and I shall see you again soon. Just pop over to my page after the broadcast. I've got a whole load of things I made earlier that I'm going to pop on as free giveaways. So, you know, have a pop over to what Kate made, Kate's Design and Craft on Facebook, and see what there is. There'll be a whole load of things. But it's been nice to see you. Enjoy making your crown. Send me pictures if you do. And that's me over and out. And I'll see you soon.